So the answer unequivocally is yes, 1,000%. Like, we are still in hunting. We'll always be in hunting. It's our foundation. It's our core. It's an enormous part of our business. But it's like, let's take those ideals from, the field and streams and the outdoor lives and that, and like repackage that for the modern sportsman.
I was like, well, if I throw a mic on, then I can help others the way that these people have all helped me.
Born in the heart of the Pennsylvania deer camp, with the help of experts, friends, and local legends, we bring you valuable knowledge and powerful stories for your hunting adventures. Welcome to the East Meets West Hunt Podcast with your host, Beau Martonik.
All right, John Barklow, welcome back to the podcast.
Thanks for having me. How long's it been? It's been over a year for sure.
I think it's been 2.
I was going to say 2. Yeah. Not that we haven't seen each other a bunch in between, but
I've had you on so many times over the years. I was like, I said maybe everyone needs a little break.
Yeah.
Sometimes
Understood.
I was getting comments. We don't want to hear this John guy on all the time.
He says the same thing every single time.
Same thing every time. No, it's been cool. We were just talking beforehand. You and I met, it was close to 10 years ago, probably.
Yeah.
How long have you been at Sitka?
Yeah, 10 and a half.
Yeah.
So it's at least 9.
Yeah.
For sure. Yep.
Yeah. You were there helping me when I worked at a bow shop that was selling Sitka Gear, learning how to build systems. Yeah. And I was really interested, and you spent a lot of time with me and patience and teaching me how to do that and go through it. And it, I was super grateful for it. Never realized where that would take our relationship and get to work together. It's really funny how that works.
Yeah, no, it's awesome. I just tell people, like, if you know a direction you want to go, like, just keep heading in that direction and see what happens. And a lot of times good stuff happens.
Yeah.
So yeah, we're working on, literally yesterday, last evening, we were talking about some fall 27 developments and some field testing stuff and some surveys you've already helped us on. And no, you become a hugely integral part of our product development process.
It's been really fun to be a part of it, and because Sitka is a unique company, with yourself and other good people involved to that at the level of testing and going through that gear, and I've loved that. Like that's one of my favorite parts of getting to work with Sitka is not only getting to wear the gear, but just being able to do the testing, listening to the feedback, whether my feedback's good or not, that doesn't matter, but you at least listen and go through it. And I think that's really cool. And seeing products go down that pipeline. I remember you telling me once about how long, like when you're talking to people, you can't remember sometimes, like, if a product just came out, it seems old to you because you've been working on it for so long.
I did it this last week.
Did you?
Yeah. I was giving this big presentation about fall 25 and all the new stuff coming out. And I start talking about this pant, and I didn't say the name of it yet.
Yeah.
But I got about 3 sentences in, and I'm like, oh, no, disregard. That's not till next year. And when I mean next year, like fall 26, you just start laughing, I was like, oh, no, wait, I got sidetracked.
Yeah. Yeah, it's probably crazy to see even the developments, whether it's in product or anything else, from when you started to now. Like, what is that like?
There's just a lot more of it. That's one of the things, right? So, we've launched footwear. And although I don't have anything directly to do with footwear, like that was a huge part for the business to take on. And then, I would say stick around because, what we got coming out. But, like, 2026 is going to be our biggest year ever at Sitka. Like, it's such an easy statement to say because it's going to be so obvious when it happens. So it's kind of like if you liked what we did this last 10 years, wait for the next 10 because it's just, we're done with, so fall 25 hasn't launched yet. Like I said, it's going to start in the next week or so, and it'll go for many months, and then all of 2026 is done as far as development. We're talking to you about, fall 27 developments already, and we're already looking at early stages of fall 28. So, when I say something like, I can say it with fairly good confidence, like, oh no, this is like enormous. And part of what fall 25 is we were updating, Gore was updating their Gore-Tex and Windstopper to make it a little more environmentally friendly and in line with, updated regulations and things. And so that was a big deal because a lot of our line is Gore-Tex and Windstopper. Our biggest styles, Fanatics, Jetstreams, Hudson jackets are either Gore-Tex or Windstopper. And so we took that opportunity not to update everything, but styles that we knew we could improve upon, wanted to improve upon, maybe hadn't been updated in a while. We took the opportunity to update some of that stuff. And, that was a lot of work, but now all of a sudden you got, I don't want to give a number, but it's multiple dozens of new products coming out this year.
Just crazy. And you'd think after a while, be like, how can you keep coming up with new stuff? But it's funny when every time I talk to you, it's like you're still coming up with ideas, and the team are still coming up with ideas.
Well, you brought up an idea yesterday we were talking about, right? For saddle hunting, which, I told you, I said, I'd been thinking this, but I said it to you yesterday. I was like, well, I just wanted to make sure saddle hunting wasn't a fad, which, it could have been. Clearly it's not now. I've got, my intent is to use a saddle system for potentially elk season, because there's some opportunities depending on where you are, the weather, there's a lot of things where you could take advantage of a wallow or a pinch point or whatever. And then if I would have had a saddle the last year or two in my whitetail hunts, big open cottonwood river bottoms in Montana, I've killed good bucks. I could have killed great bucks potentially if I could have just taken the opportunity and just quickly went and hung a set and sat in it first time, see what happens. So my point is, it's here to stay.
Yeah.
And so it's like, okay, well, let's start to look at those unique problems that hunter has and see if we can solve some of them.
Yeah. It's cool. And I remember too, even when I brought up some ideas for saddle hunting years ago, I didn't even push real hard because I wasn't sure, how long, because things come in waves and fads and everything. So but I think it's definitely here to stay, and just mobile hunting in general. So we may have some cool ideas to work on. And who knows, they might come together and spend a couple years on it, and it end up being like this sucks. And
sometimes that happens. We're trying to get a little better at that, but I think you have to give yourself the patience to at least try some things, and we're given that leeway to do that.
Yeah.
I like to have a lot more wins and losses when it comes to that.
Yeah.
So, I've definitely, I want to say wasted, but I've definitely used up a lot of money sometimes with nothing to show for it. But you never know. And in a couple of years, you're like, oh, remember that thing we did?
Yeah.
Well, maybe now we can, maybe some of that's relevant to take it forward. So.
Yeah. No, that makes a lot of sense. And one thing I had been talking to some people recently that brought up, they're like, man, Sitka's doing a bunch of different stuff now, a lot more in the everyday side, the footwear, and they're like, are they still taking hunting products serious and going through it? And I'd like to hear you answer that question.
So the answer unequivocally is yes, 1,000%. We are still in hunting. We'll always be in hunting. It's our foundation. It's our core. It's an enormous part of our business. Yes, we think those other things can be additive, and footwear probably can be its own huge business opportunity unto itself. I think time will tell, but I think that opportunity exists. And then some of the other things, I told you the other night we were getting into. But I think at its core, Sitka has its roots in hunting. It always will. And I think that's what makes it unique. So if we do build something, say, for everyday, right? So we built something for you to go hike, lift, train, trail run, whatever it is, that's just additive to the pursuit of hunting, right? And so if you look at it through that lens, it's like this modern day sportsman.
Yep.
Which I love that, and I can explain that without trying to get on my soapbox, but this idea of what is the modern sportsman, and trying to either define that. So you and I are from back east, and there's a lot of hunting history and heritage and family members and things, right? And it's soulful. And so I just remember as a kid, I'm leafing through Field and Stream and Outdoor Life and, reading Jack O'Connor and Jim Zumbo and all these people. And there was just such a rich tradition that was, at least for me, I idealize that, and I still value that. And there's like a sense of community to that. And I think as a general statement, just with the fast pace of life and where we're going and social media, like we just kind of gotten, as a community, gotten away from a little bit of that. Obviously that video, that just came out with your dad is super rad, and that's exactly what I'm talking about. But it's like, let's take those ideals from, the Field and Streams and the Outdoor Lives and that, and like repackage that for the modern sportsman, right? And what is that? And mind you, I'm not saying the modern hunter, I'm saying the modern sportsman. So what does that mean? It's like us, it's like the guy who hunts, but maybe he shoots trap, maybe he goes fishing with his family, maybe he goes camping with the family or canoeing. It's like, that is the modern sportsman. Yeah. But at its root, at its core, especially for Sitka, is hunting. So yes, is a long way of saying that.
Yeah, and the way I've explained it too is just a lot of the technologies and the ways that you designed hunting clothing can be applicable in these other places and 100%. Be able to utilize that. And that's like, I'm like, no, listen, I'm seeing what the future looks like in products, and there's no taking the foot off the gas.
No. Matter of fact, so the COVID years were difficult for a lot of reasons for a lot of people. For us professionally, factories were shut down, countries were shut down. If you could turn a prototype in 3 to 4 weeks, it took sometimes up to 12 weeks, right? So 2 to 3 times as long to get a proto done. But the calendar, our yearly calendar, doesn't change. So you weren't able to launch as many new products, and it was far more difficult and maybe more costly to get it done. But, we were asked to just continue to move forward. Just keep doing it. Yeah, we know it's difficult. Yeah, we know it's taken longer. In 23 and 24, as far as product, they were light. We had new stuff, but it was a little light. But that was some of the effect of COVID. I would argue that a lot of brands, not just in our space, but just in outdoor, a lot of brands didn't even bring anything new out. So at least we were trying. But the thing that the public didn't see was that all those things that maybe didn't meet the timeline for 23 or 24, we didn't throw them out. They just kept getting stacked on the shelf. And now that COVID's over, we're roaring back. And there's more stuff, as I said, than ever. And it's not just stuff, like some really big, meaningful, impactful things that, I know that the team is super stoked about.
Yeah. No, and what I think is cool, so, you always preach, and what you taught me at, when I was just getting into the hunting industry per se, of working at the bow shop and everything, about the 8-piece system and going through that. And I think if you look at Sitka, and it's like all these products, John preaches 8 pieces, but I think, and this is what I want you to answer, but the fact of, how do I want to put this? Learning those foundations and how to do that is what those different pieces can fit those different spots in those different pieces of that system. Per se. I said that really terribly, but
well, the 8-piece system doesn't change, and I can walk through it real quick. But the reason that doesn't change is because the human hasn't changed, right? So like we're sitting out here right now, the sun's out, it's a little breezy, it's whatever temperature, and we have clothing on to, manage our body temperature. If we get hot, we're going to take this sweatshirt off. We get cold, we may keep it on and maybe put a windbreaker on, like a windstopper jacket, right? So the human hasn't changed. The pursuits really haven't changed. What's changed is technology in that clothing. So, your granddad is an example. If he's running around the mountains wearing denim and maybe some surplus wool from World War II or
Army BDU pants,
any of that, right? Or a big canvas tent. that was cutting edge at the time. But now things have evolved to where that, that heavy tarp that maybe was in the pannier of, a horse, a pack horse, or only left at base camp, is now a 1 pound thing the size of your fist you can carry in your pack. You don't even know it's there. Boom, you put it up. Well, what does that do? That increases our capability, our safety, hopefully our success, right? All those things. And so the 8-piece system, which is a base layer top and bottom, which manages your moisture, and then I won't go too deep. And then you have a pair of soft shell pants that we all wear. It's kind of like our uniform. And then we have this active insulation piece, kind of what we're wearing now, that Ambient 75. So you put it on to keep you a little warm while you're moving, but it dumps a bunch of heat, right? So you don't overheat. Then you have a wind stopper layer, cuts wind, cuts convective cooling. Then you have a static insulation or puffy jacket, traps your body heat, allows you to sit behind the glass, sit in camp, sit on a bowl and wait till daylight to hike it out. And then your rain gear jacket and pants. So if you think about it like that, 5 layers, 8 pieces, when we're looking at product, we're like, man, that's an awesome technology. That's a great new down insulation like it's in the Hyper Down.
Yep.
Where it's got literally gold dust. It's the best DWR treatment. It'll resist water better than any down out there. It'll dry quicker when it does get wet, et cetera, et cetera. It's like, that's great. How do we integrate that into the 8-piece system? And so you do that. That's where the testing comes in. Mm-hmm. And you might get to the point where you're like, you know what? This jacket is so awesome. But now it showed maybe some holes in the rest of the system. And the next thing you know, we're working on active insulation to mirror or to pair with the static insulation. And that's where this whole thing just keeps evolving.
And I would highly recommend anyone listening, I'll put a link in here. John and I have done a specific podcast going in high detail on that 8-piece layering system. So I'll put a link for people to review on that. But, you talk about the evolution of things. That Hyper Down was one that I would not say I wasn't skeptical of it by any means, but hearing you in the past talking about synthetic insulation versus down insulation in wet environments, and I was like, man, is this going to be something? And I was asked if I would take it to Alaska on my moose hunt, both the sleeping bag and the Hyper Down. I didn't have the pants, I just had the top, and to go there, and I was like, man, I'm going to a wet environment with this. I hope this works the way it says it's going to. And I fell in love with it. But that's where an example of where technology improves and is able to kind of change that a little bit.
Yeah. Well, first of all, you never want to test on your consumer. You definitely don't want to, you're a field tester as well as an athlete for us, but I could never give you something and have that compromise your life or your hunt. Like, I would feel horrible about
sure?
that. Well, not for field testing, but in that case. But I've been. How should I say this? I'm not anti-down. I'm just pro-synthetic when it comes to insulations, just because you have to speak in generalities, and I do stand behind that statement. But as technology evolves, and we were starting to look at this, you're like, man, this, is it? You read the marketing hype from the insulation company, and you're like, well, is it true? And you see their testing, but I'm very skeptical. And then we do our own testing, and it starts to evolve, and you're like, I don't know, maybe there actually is something here. And then you get in some garments, we start field testing it, and to your point, I started to fall in love with it as well, right? And now all of a sudden, where I thought down had more of a niche type fit into a lot of people's backpack, that's been open now. To the point where, Adam Foss and I jumped in that, that cold water in the cold chamber back at Gore to kind of, one, because it's a bit of a circus act and everybody likes to see people suffer, right? But hopefully it drove home the point that, in the worst case scenario, worst case, say you were float hunting on that moose hunt and you flipped the raft and you swam to shore with your pack, and now you're in the middle of nowhere, and maybe your inReach got torched by the water, and you're having to wait 4 days for the float plane to fly over and pick you up and find you on this river, and you're completely soaked. You can put that stuff on and just with your body heat, a little bit of knowledge, of course, like you're going to be able to survive that and not die.
Yeah.
And that's really what, I know it sounds extreme, but that's kind of the world I grew up in the military, where, you know, you have to build for these uncompromising environments, because those guys, you know, they get dropped off, they don't get to come home because they're cold, wet, or hungry, right? It's like mission success almost at all costs, right? So that sounds extreme, but if you apply it now to, say, the thing we love, which is hunting, and that could be, I'm going out for the day to saddle hunt whitetail, or I'm going to go on, you know, maybe my once-in-a-lifetime moose hunt to Alaska, or maybe I drove, you know, from Ohio, Pennsylvania out to Colorado, and I'm using a week of vacation and all this gas money, and I want to go on this elk hunt. Like, the last thing you want to do is for your gear to fail you and compromise your safety, or at least your hunt. And all of a sudden it's like you're the thing you've been living for all year's gone, right?
Yeah.
Or you're out there and you're scared to be there for the snowstorm that night, but you know that when it snowstorms breaks, that next day is going to be the best hunting of the trip, because it's going to break, you know, with high pressure. It's going to be clear. The bulls are going to be bugling, or whatever, you know, animal you're chasing. And so it's like, that's what you want to build for. And so with that down, I mean, I'm the most skeptical person you probably ever meet. And I was just like, no, I mean, it was just checking every box. And so that's just one example.
Yeah.
But I'm definitely on record, and I stick to it, that, you know, as a general statement, I think synthetic is the best overall for most people and most things. But those lines are really beginning to become blurred because of this down technology.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I wasn't trying to call you out and say,
oh
you
no,
said
not at all
different, but that
no,
was
no.
It was just
no.
an
Please
example.
do, and listen, there might be a point in time where I say I have to retract that statement now, and that's cool.
That's how things evolve, and that's
Absolutely.
how technology evolves, and doing it. They're still doing the same. They're designed to do the same thing and keep you warm when you're static, and basically that. And you know, when we look at that from so I was looking back at the episodes we had done before and some of the things we had talked about. One thing that we have not spent much time talking about, which is a big thing for me and a lot of my audience, as well as you, is whitetail hunting.
Oh,
and
I love it.
And building the you know, the layering side of layering system for whitetail hunting. And kind of talking about that, you know, thinking about does the 8-piece layering system, does that still work for whitetails?
Yeah. No, it's a great question. And, you know, I grew up in Ohio, so I grew up whitetail hunting.
Yeah.
I was a miserable failure at it, but I loved it, and it's in my blood. Like, come November, it's the only thing I want to do. September, I only want to hunt elk, but come November, I only want to hunt whitetail. And now I've luckily been able to extend that into December even. But no, so going back to the human is the human, and how you get cold or warm up is the same, right? And so it's okay for this specific thing, which whitetail hunting is so unique. Like, in some regard, it's such an insane outdoor pursuit. It's like, we're going to walk out in the woods, sometimes in the coldest weather, right? Climb up in a tree and hopefully have a deer walk by within, let's just say, 20 to 40 yards.
Yeah.
Right? And while we're there, in the cold, weathering those conditions, we can't move. We can't do jumping jacks. We can't eat a bag of chips. We can't do all these things that are going to give us away, right? So it's one of those things where you're really very reliant on your clothing and then what I call your internal combustion engine, right? So your body, your metabolism. And so with all that said, yes, the 8-piece system still applies. All those things about, you know, base layers and insulation and static insulation, active insulation. You know, sometimes I go out with 7 pieces. Sometimes I go out with 9 pieces. But all you're trying to do when you get there is 2 things. Manage your moisture while I call it the commute, while you're commuting to your stand. So we just talked about saddle hunting. it used to be, or, it still is depending on where you go, you're walking 100 yards, 400 yards, maybe you're riding an e-bike, maybe you're taking an ATV to get to a traditional stand. But now with saddle hunting, I mean, you might be hiking several miles, right, up and down hills. I mean, guys out west are taking them into the mountains of Idaho and things like that. I just talked to you about, Montana river bottoms where, walking a mile is like, it's just kind of a standard thing in the morning. And so there's two parts. You have the commute. So now you're almost like having to dress like you're big game hunting, where you're going to be moving a lot, hiking, generating heat, trying to manage that moisture so that you don't arrive at the tree for what I call the sit, sweated up. And of course, we're all going to be a little sweaty, and that's where technical clothing comes in. Base layers move that moisture. As long as your skin is dry, that layer directly on your skin, like, you're going to be able to stay warm. You're going to feel comfortable. You're not going to have to shiver and burn calories to try to, dry out like a cotton t-shirt. And then when you get there for the sit, that's when all that insulation goes on. An incinerator or a Fanatic or a Stratus, right? And you have all these pieces. So I'll just give you just the top of my head, I'll give you my basic whitetail clothing system. So when I'm whitetail hunting, if I'm not going to go like saddle hunt, which I have not done to the level you have, like where I'm hiking many miles, I tend to wear wool. So I have just a super lightweight wool top and bottom, right? So wool manage moisture, pulls it off my skin, keeps me a little warm if it's damp, but it dries relatively quick. But I can regulate my pace hiking unless I woke up late or something, But it also helps cut my odor down, which anytime you're whitetail hunting, anytime you can cut odor, like, you should do it. So you have that. And then I have a static or an active insulation top. So that could be that ambient 75, but oftentimes for me, it's either an ambient 100 or an ambient 200, right? So depending on the temperature, I can put that on and I can move, but it's going to dump the heat. But I need something to keep me warm because it's so doggone cold in the morning. The difference for my whitetail system from my big game system is I still have a wind stopper top, and that could be a bunch of different things. It could be a Mountain Evo jacket. That Mountain Evo jacket's getting updated this year. I'll give you a little throw a little shout out to something new called the Jetstream LT or Jetstream Light. So a Jetstream LT jacket, and then this is going to sound weird to you, but like, I wear windstopper running pants or mountain biking shorts or something like that, as opposed to my soft shell pants. So I'm putting on a full layer of windstopper. So I have my wool base layer, I've got a windstopper jacket, windstopper pants. Sometimes that's what I'm walking to my stand in, depending on where I'm going, how far, what the conditions are, etc. Now, we were talking about this yesterday, and which I think this is happening more and more. I do not wear, as a general rule, I do not wear rubber boots. Mm-hmm. I wear hiking boots.
Yep.
And I don't know, maybe because I'm a Western whitetail hunter and you're a saddle hunter, but my feet stay warmer, they're more comfortable, and they help manage that moisture so that, again, when I get to my stand, yeah, my feet are probably a little sweaty inside, but that boot and that insulation can manage it, right? So anyways, but that's what I could walk to my stand in. So that's 4 pieces of the 8 right there.
Yep.
Then when I get where I'm going, I get to the base of the tree or I climb the tree. That's when I say, okay, what more do I need now to stay warm? So I have that active insulative top and windstopper. Now this is where I might put on active insulated pants, right, to provide a little bit more insulation. We talked about that. Those don't really exist, but stand by because there's something coming out. So I might choose to put those on. So that's, what is that? Number 5.
Yep.
And then, say, a Fanatic top and bottom, a Stratus jacket and bib. So now I got 7 pieces.
Yep.
If I don't put the active insulated pants on, I got 6 pieces. And people are like, I remember my buddies in Missouri, they're like, how are you able to stay so doggone warm with so few layers? And it's like, because they're the right layers. It's not like more equals more.
Yeah.
It's the right layers. And so with those 6, 7 pieces, if you want to throw like in a hand muff as an accessory, there's my 8. But it's no more than that. And all of a sudden I'm able to walk to my stand, manage my moisture, climb on board, and then put this static insulation on that's got wind stopper, that's going to, so 2 layers of wind stopper that's going to cut the wind, trap my body heat. And then something that I do, I'm curious, I don't know if we've talked about this, and I know everybody has their own opinions, and I'm sure where they hunt has a lot to do with it, but now I'm sitting there and I'm relying solely on this clothing to basically insulate my core.
Yep.
And just like the home you build around your furnace is intended to keep the heat in, and you know it's going to slowly escape, and you know thermostat comes on, kicks the heater on. You have to do the same with your body. And so bringing food and water
Yes.
to fuel that metabolic engine, especially if you're going to sit all day, which I'm a huge sit all day guy.
Likewise.
Right? Especially if you're hiking all the way in there.
Yeah, I'm not
right,
coming
and you're
back.
burning calories on the way in and out.
Yep.
That I think that is something that's overlooked. It's like I'm probably going to eat something before I leave to go out, and then while I'm there throughout the day, I'm constantly like topping off the fuel tank, just like you would your truck. I'm driving, getting a half tank. I like to fuel up at half a tank, fuel back up. And then all of a sudden you're like, wow, like I've been here all day. I'm pretty warm. My feet are warm, you know, and there's some other tricks. But that's it. It's not like 12 pieces, 14 pieces. It's like, no, what that does is that oftentimes cuts down on blood flow. It doesn't allow anything to get trapped because all the insulations and things that you put on are compressed, so there's no dead airspace. It's just layer on layer and layer and layer. And then you don't have any range of motion to like draw your bow, shoulder your rifle, even climb the doggone tree, right?
Yeah.
And so it's really detrimental to what you're out there to do.
Yeah, and so the food component of it is, it's funny, I never did it intentionally, but then after I learned about, even with, if you were to go, say you were to fall in water, like the cold weather drill, and going through that, and how you're able to use your body as creating heat within your body. And I just was bored and hungry, so I'd always, every hour I'd eat a snack, and that was helped me get through all day since.
Oh, absolutely.
Mentally. But then I realized this is actually helping me stay warm too, and staying hydrated. So I know there's a lot of people, I've talked to people that highly disagree with me about food and drinking in a tree because of scent. And I'm like, if it keeps me there longer, I really don't care. And I'm hoping that I'm set up and the wind is in a decent spot. But I'm going to eat food, and I usually bring a lot of it.
Yeah. Well, it's a lesser of two evils.
Yeah.
If I'm not there, I can't kill the deer, right? And if the scent of my peanut butter and jelly sandwich is somehow going to compromise me, then I just have to be willing to accept that as part of just this crazy hard thing we're trying to do. Because if you don't eat, if you don't drink, there's a couple things going to happen. You're going to get cold. You're going to start to shiver. Maybe you start to do this. Maybe you can't draw your bow when you need to. Maybe your cognitive function, you're not thinking clearly. You can't make that one precise shot. You can't time your ant to stop the deer in the shooting lane. You're an athlete out there, and you have to try to, after all this long vigil that could be days, it could be a day, it could be days, it could be weeks, it could be at the end of a season after months, that you're trying to stack the odds in your favor. And so, I definitely put attention into what I bring out there now to consume, but it doesn't matter at the end of the day. There's no hard and fast rules. It's like, listen, man, if you want to just eat Snickers bars, fucking eat Snickers bars. I don't care. I like to prepackage my food to kind of cut down on wrappers and some of the noise, but that and some type of, like a hot drink, I'll put hot water in a big, thermos or Yeti bottle.
Yep.
I'll put hot Protect in there or soup. The morale boost,
yes.
Right? The warmth. Just, okay, I only got one more hour till the next time I can do that. And all of a sudden, you're there all day. And I don't know, well, I know for sure, but 3 years in a row for sure, but 4 times now, to include this last year, I've killed bucks, mature bucks, in the middle of the day
Yeah.
when most of my friends were not there. Not they were with me, but like they weren't in the woods, right? Between 12 and 2, I've killed 4 mature bucks because I'm there. And so would I rather have a little food that may compromise me, but it's going to keep me there to take advantage of those opportunities? Or would I rather be back at camp sleeping because I froze for 3-4 hours and I just need a break?
Yeah.
And so it's like everybody's got to decide that for themselves.
Oh, I talked about that recently. I was looking at the deer that I've shot over the last 10 years, and the majority of them that were during the rut were between actually 12 and 1. And almost right at noon. When that happens, I'm on high alert. I don't know what it is about it hits noon and just really needing to be there, paying attention. And I don't know if you'd watched the whole film on my dad or anything, but there's a component in there because we were making this film. There had to be a day during the week that we left and went and did interviews at camp. So I picked a day that was going to be the warmest in the afternoon. Yep. And Thomas, my camera guy, was like, "Hey, we got to go back and do this." All right. And I said, "Is 11:30 fine?" And he's like, "Yeah, that should be good." And we're at 11:15. It starts pouring down rain. We hadn't seen a deer all day. And I look at him. I said,
"Yeah,
let's go."
Seems reasonable.
So here is I broke my own rule. If I can only sit to a certain point and I can't sit all day, I set an hour time frame or a half hour, whatever it is, and I won't move to even pack up until I hit that moment.
Discipline to that second.
Yep. Well, I broke that. And
which
Thomas climbs down. I lower my bow down, which a lot of times I put my bow in my backpack, but I started doing this bow rope thing, and then him being nice, unclipped it to move out of the way for me. I take one step off my platform, and here comes the buck. Would have been the biggest deer I'd ever shot that I was chasing. Came out of this clear cut, chasing a doe, and is there at 22 yards. Then spots Thomas at the base of the tree, thinks that he's the doe, and starts grunting and running at him, coming even closer. And it was an incredible experience, but that hurt so bad. But that was another scenario of that mid, and that was 11:30 in the morning, and it was late October. Even that's right about the time when I start looking at all day sits. But it's and that's why, not to go deep on that subject, but that's exactly being comfortable and being able to stay all day. And one thing when you're talking about active insulation, a piece that I've been using a lot more, I either use the Ambient 100 or the Merino 330.
Yeah.
And so the reason why
both active insulations.
I like the Merino 330 a lot. One, that face mask is like so soft, and it just stays warm even when you're breathing on it. It's cold. So I can have my hood up, be able to retain some of that heat and that scent that's coming out of my mouth, but also the hand cuffs that come out. I don't like to wear gloves much when I'm bow hunting. If I wear anything, I'll wear the Fanatic gloves. They have the cuts on your finger and your thumb, but I'll have that so I can add just a little bit of extra warmth kind of on my palm there. Have that. That's been a really nice piece. And then instead of the Mountain Evo jacket, I've been using the Stratus vest as an option. So I still have more breathability.
But it's windstopper, right? Yeah. You're still solving the same problem we're talking about. How you choose to do it is up to you.
And that's the point of, we could talk to 5 people and they all have different pieces that work for them. But the one thing, I've heard you say it so many times about the bottom, that short thing. I haven't done that yet, and I'm very interested in it.
I got Windstopper trail running pants. They're not tights. They're not tights. They're pants. They really are.
Yeah.
But I've been wearing those because they stopped making the Windstopper mountain biking shorts. They don't have a pad or anything in them. So I wanted to find something else so I could tell people. And so I've been wearing those pants, and they're awesome. And like I said, I mean, they're durable enough because they're trail running pants. I can walk to my stand if I need to. Doesn't attract any burrs or anything. But to me, it's like critical. Windstopper is great because it cuts the wind, which can quickly strip your body heat through convective cooling, but you don't have any penalty of bulk. The other thing that those Windstopper layers can do if you're wearing them like we are, like kind of as a mid layer, is they often allow you to have that range of motion when you put something over top, so you can, draw your bow or whatever it is. I want to get back to the midday thing real quick, but the first time I even discovered this, I mean, I guess I'd heard about it, but like I truly experienced it was we were in northern Missouri hunting. We had a farm that me and two buddies could hunt for like 2 weeks. And so anyways, I had to do a phone call. I wasn't with Sitka yet. I had to do a phone call in the morning, and I was like pretty upset about it, but I was like, well, I'll be out there by 8 or something like that, And at 10:30, I'm walking, because I'm like, I was just determined to go because the call ran late. And so I'm just like cursing up a storm and like MF and this and all that.
You
right?
got mad?
Yeah, no, it's you can imagine. I mean,
no.
Yeah. And so maybe it was even later than that, because I remember this one particular instance. I remember almost the opposite of you. So I had climbed up the tree, and I'm facing the tree. I had pulled my bow. I'd put my bow arm in. I'd pulled my bow up. I'd connected it. I had my pack sitting right here on the tree stand step. So I was still sorting my stuff out. I had my release in a pocket over here, and I heard something. And, of course, it's like, you're thinking it's squirrels just messing with you. And I look to my right, and here comes a 10-point buck. And it was when I killed him, it was 11:45 in the morning. I had literally not even been on my stand 5 minutes. But I got up, and so I'm like, oh. And I had to, so I used my body, because he's coming this way, to block his vision of pulling my bow off, knocking an arrow, getting my release. I couldn't get it around my wrist. Luckily, it was a handheld.
Yeah.
And I'm just waiting like this. He walks by, and I had just guessed at some vegetation range-wise, and I waited, and he got to 20, 25 yards, and I shot him quartering straight away, and he ran up and piled over 50 yards away, and it was cold, and I couldn't see him, but I could see the steam rising off his body, and I'm like, I have not been here 5 minutes, and it was 11:45 when I looked at my watch, and I'm like, it doesn't matter. Sleep in one day, but go and get in the stand and stay there.
Yes.
Like, that's what's most important. And and now it's been 4 times. This buck I killed last year was 6 or 7 years old, because we'd seen him for 3 years, and we thought that he was 3 when we saw him the first year.
Really?
So he was 6 or 7. We called him Fat Bastard just because he was he was just super big, gnarly, like fat rolls on his neck, and he was nothing ever more than, the first year we saw him, he was a giant forky, really wide. Second year, he's like a 3x3. Last year when I killed him, he was a 3x2, and or a 5-point. I'd seen him the day before cruising, and I couldn't get a shot at him. But anyways, so I moved stands, and he came by at I think just a little after 2 o'clock, just cruising for does. Same thing he had done the day before, but I'm like, he's going to keep doing this until
he finds what he's looking for.
Yeah. Yeah.
Man, what date was that?
That would have been just prior to Thanksgiving, so maybe like the 20th of November, something like that.
So kind of that late rut, like after the peak of it. What state was that in? Is that
Montana?
Montana. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that area. There's so many does. It's crazy because our season, it's technically a rifle season, but I archery hunt in it. You can do that. But our season generally ends we'll just say on average the 1st of December.
Yeah.
I've been sitting there the last day of the season. Well, I'll give you an example of this in a minute, but where the rut's still going, and I think it's either the buck to doe ratio's off, and the bucks there's still does coming into estrus is my guess.
Yeah.
Some of the biggest bucks historically we've ever seen are on the last couple days of that season, and you can't pursue them anymore. I mean, my buddy filmed. I mean, he was at least a 170 type deer, like a low 170 type deer, if not a mid to high 170 type deer, fighting like aggressively, like trying to kill this other buck on like the 28th of November, whatever, like the second to last day of last year's season. And I'd killed my buck. And then I had a doe tag. I was trying to fill my doe tag, and so I went to a different stand, kind of right near cover, bedding, and I had a mature mid 150s type deer, just a beautiful chocolate horn 10, come out and work a scrape on like the 25th of November, 20 yards from me. So I'm like, it's still going.
Oh, yeah.
But I've just learned that having been there and spending a lot of time on the stand, you know?
Yeah,
So,
and I think like I agree with the high doe numbers because they're just not able to get around to that. Or some of those does, at least from what I had read about, does will continue to cycle until
That's what
they get bred, and so it can continue even later than that, depending on how that works. I'm no biologist, but just from what I've seen, especially in areas that are higher populations, West Virginia is an example of a place that have hunt that I like going mid to late November a lot of times. Usually there's less people in the woods. People like the first couple weeks of November, and then also just the fact that when there's a lot of does there, they're coming back. And I truly believe those big deer, those does want to be bred by those big bucks, and they don't have to work as hard early on. You might right before when they're searching for those first does, that's like an opportunity. But that typical rut time frame, you see a lot of the younger deer. I just believe that those big deer are going from doe to doe to doe, and they kind of have their options. And but then later they get a little desperate again. They're kind of out searching.
I've kind of seen the same thing even with elk in Montana. I don't want to give too much away, but I'll just say that we're so blessed in Montana to have a 6-week archery season, a week off, followed by a 6-week rifle season, right? So that 6-week archery season takes us, depending on the year, it's in the day it starts that year, into mid-October. I've had some of my best off-the-chain, crazy rut action in October, on that last week of where, again, everybody's out of the woods. It's maybe not as prolific, but those rut fests are still going on. And oftentimes, this is what I found, that's when I'm seeing the biggest bulls, just like I'm seeing the biggest bucks. So, I don't know. I mean,
I killed my bull October 2nd.
There you go.
Yeah.
There you go.
And I'd heard that information from people, and that's
well, it's so unique to Montana. Not a lot of states. It's over the end of September. And I think that, I don't know, but the fall season early season, September, even October, like they tend to be warmer than they've ever been. Right. Which maybe that speaks to some of the whitetail thing. I don't know. I just know that that's what I'm seeing, and that's what I'm trying to react to. Could we talk about hands real quick?
Yeah,
just circle back on that.
I want to talk about hands and head. So
okay, well let's talk about that.
Yeah.
So, we're trying to. I mean, let's be honest. Like, we're in the tree stand, we're working our phones, right?
Yep.
You're checking email, you're looking at Instagram, or probably for you TikTok, but. But nonetheless, you're like, I'm texting my buddy, hey, what are you seeing? It keeps you occupied, But, maybe you're getting information like, hey, I just saw a deer go through this edge of the field. He's heading your direction kind of thing, right? So get some intel, give you some hope that something's going to happen. But so you're doing that. Maybe you're using your rangefinder, maybe some binoculars, like, because I got bigger country to glass. I don't know about in the mountains where you're going, but so I'm glassing, and then, of course, there's the actual shooting aspect. So what I like, and I've even used it on some colder archery hunts for like elk and mule deer and stuff, is a hand muff, like that hand muff. So if you have a Fanatic jacket, it's already built in, so you don't need to bring the hand muff. But oftentimes it's just not cold enough for me to run a Fanatic, so I bring that hand muff. And so I have a 330 merino glove on my bow hand, so to speak.
Yep.
Yeah, I'll either have no glove on my shooting hand or cut the thumb and forefinger off or run a Fanatic glove.
Yep.
So that allows me to do a couple things. And there's conductive threads on like the 330 merinos and Jetstreams and stuff if you want. But my point is, it's dexterous enough I can run my phone, work my optics. That muff keeps my hands super warm, so I don't need a big glove.
Yep.
And I keep my phone and my release, because I shoot a handheld, and then sometimes a chemical heat pack. So it's all in there. So all of a sudden it's like, oh, there's a deer, right? I'm there. Like I'm not wasting a lot of effort, or hey, I want to run my phone. I put it back in. I'm not pulling a glove off, putting it back on. I mean, people talk about not wanting to eat. It's like just not fussing around as little as possible is going to help. So I think that's a really big deal. If you don't like that, maybe chemical hand warmers. But I just don't like having – I want to be ready for action and not like stripping gloves off and all that. So I don't know if you do something a little different. And then for your head, I mean, you've got to have a beanie.
Yep.
You don't have to walk in with it if it's too warm. And I'm a huge proponent of windstopper beanies.
Yes.
Right? And I even go so far now as I'm trying to remember the name because – I think the name's changed. I think it's called the Blizzard Gore-Tex hat. So it's got
the flippable and
yes, it's got a brim. It's got covers my ears, right? Comes down on the back of my neck. It's got Gore-Tex, but essentially windstopper, right? And then it's got this really plush, like Berber fleece on the inside. I mean, so I have a light beanie. I normally commute to my stand-in. If it's warm during the middle of the day, I can have that on. But in the cold that we're talking about, I will transition once I'm in the tree, take that beanie off, pull that Blizzard Gore-Tex on. Man, if it's raining or snowing at all, normally snow at that time of year, it'll keep some stuff. Because I wear shooting glasses, it'll keep some precip off my glasses. But it cuts the wind. I like to say caps the chimney, right? Keeps my body heat in. And it's just so comfortable to have on. Like you're just like, I mean, any comfort you can get out there, right, is appreciated.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
Yeah.
It's like the same material that's on the inside of the hand muff on the Fanatic jacket, which is like, it's so nice. And to speak on that, so I'm a huge fan of brimmed. I can't wear a normal beanie without a brim. So either I have like my normal ball cap and then I'll put like the Stratus beanie over top of it. What I've been doing a lot more lately is the merino beanie, and then I'll put that either the incinerator, which is basically the same thing as the Blizzard one that has the earmuffs that flip up and the brim. But I like the two-piece layering of the head because I'll even like walk in sometimes with just that beanie on. Just gives a little bit of keeping that chill off. But then I can add that layer on.
Yeah, nice. You
cover the top of my ears. I keep it flipped up most of the time.
So you can hear a little better.
So I can hear a little better.
Yeah, I love that.
But yeah, I love that system for it. And then because also that hat has adjustments on it, so you can't fit it over another beanie without it being so tight your head's constricted. I need as much blood flow to my brain as possible, John.
Well, luckily I have a small head because I have a small brain, so I've never had that issue, but yeah.
And then with the hand side of it, I'm a big proponent of the hand muff as well. I think that's the Jetstream. It was renamed.
It is. Jetstream windstopper muff.
Yeah. So I'll have that, and then keeping your phone in there, it makes your battery life extend much longer because if you have it out in the cold, and sometimes even in my pocket, it'll get too cold. So having it in there with either a chemical hand warmer or a battery operated hand warmer, like I have a little Zippo one that I'll put in there that works pretty good. And then what else did you say that you kept in your release? So I've been using a trigger style for whitetails for the last few years because I was having some issues with pulling through my shot correctly, and I realized I just need to shorten my draw length to 1/2 inch for whitetail, and I'd be better than switching releases and messing up my anchor points and my peep sight.
Yeah.
So, but anyways, when I was using it before, I've had it where the handheld had froze onto the the bow. Like I couldn't get it to come off because it had like some freezing rain and things. So I've learned in that in mild weather, I'll leave it clipped on.
Yeah.
But in really cold weather, I keep it in there nice and warm. And then also, if you have a buck coming in, you have to grab a hold of that metal, and it's freezing cold.
And you're holding it for like 5 minutes.
Yeah.
Like, oh, man.
Yeah. So, and something I learned from Jim Hull with getting to hunt up there is keeping your hands on the heat, as he says, as long as possible before grabbing your bow of, slow movements. When you go to grab your bow, you're being ready for it.
Yeah.
So that's, I think that all that management of it, and you can do that without having a lot of gloves on.
Yeah.
Makes it nice.
If you think through it as a system or systems, you don't need these big bulky gloves anymore when you're doing what we talk about. I do get the question about, and I even hunt with guys with, they're wearing electric socks or maybe not electric gloves, but hand warmers and pocket warmers and things like that. And people ask me about that. I'm like, yeah, sure. Like, why not? But don't throw away all the foundational things we've just talked about. Use those electric socks or hand warmers or pocket warmers. Like, use those as supplementary to everything else, right? Because, and we've looked into it, but oftentimes it's like, yeah, my feet were warm until the last hour, and then the batteries died, and my feet froze. And then, the guy's, like, starting to bounce around, and like, that's the one opportunity he gets that week,
Or what I made the mistake with that was I was testing out some electric socks, and I decided that they were working really well, so I completely relied on that, and then I didn't bring my over boots that I typically put over top. And next thing you know, my feet are freezing because the battery, or maybe I forgot to charge the battery. Something happened or Bluetooth connection. I don't know. Technology made it confusing. And I was like, I made it through, but my feet getting cold, that is where, if you want to find a weakness in mine, when my feet get cold, I'm the biggest baby about it. I hate that.
Yeah, it's, I'm not anti-technology at all. But I just think that the less we have to rely on it, the less it'll let us down, right? So it's like, it's nice, it's supplementary, it's like a great thing to have, but it's not the only thing. Like, I've built all these things foundationally, like we've discussed, and then that's just a nice to have, because the last thing you want is to, like, be stomping around and that. So let's talk about feet, because it is the one thing that tends to either push people off stand or even out of the mountains. Like, I can't get my feet warm at the glass and knob, or, sleeping at night, I have cold feet. And, like, there's so many things you can do. And I want to know, I'm really interested in which overboots you're talking about, because we've talked about this before. But, what I do is I don't wear the thickest sock possible at the expense of having a tight-fitting boot, right? Because you need blood circulation. We talked about the food, which is going to help. Hydration helps with blood flow. Not having a rubber boot, which I'm not anti-rubber boot at all. Like, the new Ventlight boot is going to breathe better than any rubber boot ever, right? But for me, it was like, and where I hunt, I wear a 400 or 800 gram, insulated crispy boot.
Yeah, the Wild Rock.
The Wild Rock, right? So those are my favorite. But then when I get on stand, and I haven't done the over boots, but now that you mention it, I'm going to try it this year. But I bring a small foam ground pad. Some people will bring like a carpet remnant with some foam glue to the bottom, whatever it is. But I put it down on the cold metal tree stand grate. That, because they're grates, there's cold air circulating all the way around your foot, right? Almost like a convection oven, but in opposite. And so I'm standing there, I'm like, man, my feet are starting to get a little cold. And before I ever let them get too cold, I pull that pad out, I put it down, and I stand on it. And I immediately insulate myself from the metal, which is going to pull heat, even through the boot, it's going to pull heat out of my foot through conductive cooling, right? And so that in and of itself can help go a long way. Now, some people may put chemical feet warmers in their boots if they want. I would recommend doing it after you get to your stand, but again, I'm not going to mess around with that. But I really like the concept of the overboot, because it's very similar to pulling on and taking off a pair of puffy pants or puffy jacket. It's the static layer.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, so the ones that I'm using, I can't say the name of it. They're
Okay.
they're a prototype that I've been
Oh,
working on that's going to be coming out.
sweet.
So they work pretty well. But the other ones I've used in the past, Arctic Shields, they work. They're clumsy. They're
Yeah.
kind of loud, but anything that goes over. Also, guys have talked about using wool socks, an old pair of wool socks, and just using the toe cap, putting that over it, and then slipping like a hand warmer or something in there to help with it.
Yep.
But you're talking about the putting the carpet or whatever on the tree stand. There was, and we'd even looked at it with Timber Ninja of trying to make like a sleeve that went over the saddle platform that would make a way to insulate it, and because that's a little bit different where you're kind of working your way on the outside edges, and it was a little more complicated to figure out. But the other aspect was, where was I going with that? Okay, so you're talking about the metal stand. An example was we were hunting in Montana, and my camera guy, we were elk hunting, okay? So we were coming back and ended up going to get more supplies. We were backpack hunting, but came back to the truck, and he didn't want to set up his tent. And I said, why don't you sleep? I had my truck tent camper up on top of my Diamondback, and he's like, I'll just sleep underneath you on your Diamondback, the cold metal aluminum. And he didn't put a pad down or anything, and he's like, that was the coldest situation possible. And then you put even just a sleeping pad on there, and you have that insulation that cuts you from that cold metal, and that's the same concept that you're doing with your foot on that metal.
Yeah. That's why I'm a huge proponent of just like, if you understand the fundamentals, if you understand some of these basic concepts, how we get cold, how we warm up, all those things, that just allows you now the freedom to be able to apply them in any situation. So, be it from sleeping on, the Diamondback cover in your truck or in the backcountry or standing on a metal tree stand grate, like it's all the same principles. Yeah. You're just figuring out unique ways to solve that specific problem, but you know how to do it. You know that I have to insulate myself. Okay, how is the best way to do that? And then all of a sudden you just start to understand that no matter what happens, you can apply those principles to anything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you, talking about like the foot side of it too, like starting with the socks. And having I've always liked merino wool
100%,
sock.
Yeah.
I've tried liners and stuff. I haven't been a huge fan of liners. Just a good merino wool sock or blend of things works well for me. Synthetic itself, just I don't know. I just haven't.
They don't work as well in socks.
No, I don't. I don't understand it. But
yeah, I don't either. I don't either. But yeah, I'm a huge merino wool sock person.
I gotta say that. Another thing I was skeptical on was Sitka's socks that were coming out at first, because I loved Darn Tough socks, and just like that's what I've used for a long time. And actually, we were talking about it last night. Harrison was saying, he's like, yeah, how are you liking those socks? I was like, I actually love them. Like, they've been working really well, and just they've been working really good, maintain form even when they get sweaty. They don't get loose and sloppy.
Oh yeah.
And everything. But good sock. I don't do, and I want to hear from you understanding the technical side of it, but I don't do 2 layers of socks, just 1 layer of socks with it. But do you have any thoughts on that, like from your?
Well, again, I think it's just part of the trying to keep circulation in your feet. Like, we're talking capillaries. Your feet aren't going to get, some people don't get great blood flow, but it's at the very bottom of this circulation system, and so you want to make sure you have good circulation. I'd rather have a looser pair of boots than a tighter pair of boots. Like, I'd rather have a looser pair of boots with 1 sock than a tighter boot with 2, because again, more isn't necessarily more. Now, if you want to wear a liner sock, like, there's no problem with that. And I used to many, many years ago, like, mountaineering and stuff like that, like ice climbing where you're constantly on your toes. And anyways, but some people have feet that sweat a lot. Mm-hmm. So that's oftentimes why they wear a liner sock. It is like a base layer in the sense that it pulls moisture off your skin. So theoretically it can keep your feet warmer. Okay. And so I'm not discounting that at all. If people like that, they should, but not at the expense of having that. Even though it's a thin layer, that can actually make those boots, any boots you're wearing,
too tight.
tighter. And then if you do that, you're almost like throwing out any benefit you're going to get.
I wonder if that was more of my problem with that, because like I had the Crispy Wild Rocks and I love those boots, but they were a little too tight for me. And I wonder if that was some of the problem with when I'd run like the liner or just a heavyweight wool sock. They were a little too tight. And I ended up buying some Schnees when I was out here in Montana, Beartooth. They're 200 gram. I wish they had a little bit more insulation, but those have worked pretty well for me. I got them a little bigger.
Yeah, socks are interesting. Like you can definitely go with a thicker sock, but the way I look at socks is more about managing moisture and helping tweak or refine the fit of the boot. So, there's boots I have where thinner socks are the better choice, and there's some boots where like an expedition weight thick sock is a better choice to get that fit, right? But really where I'm relying on, if it's an insulated boot, I'm relying on the insulation in the boot to really keep my foot warm.
Okay.
Is what I'm relying on.
Yep.
But you need to, whatever it is, you should test fit the boots with whatever sock system that you want to use. I think that's important. I think the ones that we have now, I think they're great. And I've been a darn tough guy for, a long time.
Yeah.
And I think ours are as good as anything I've ever used.
Yes. I agree.
But what else was I going to say? I was going to say something else about socks, but yeah, it's important that that you keep good circulation more than anything when it comes to socks.
Yeah. And another thing too with boots, this is something that I don't think I've talked about before. I want to hear your thoughts with it, but when I come back, I put them, if I have the ability, I put them on a boot dryer right away to try to dry them out. But I don't like to have them where I pull them off, put them on and go. It might feel good right off the bat, but it almost makes your foot too hot.
Yeah.
If you have them on an electric one. Now I have these little battery operated ones. I think Graxaw is a company that makes them that plug into like a little charging device there. Mm-hmm. So like if you're on a trip and you don't want to carry this big boot dryer, you can use that. It just uses airflow circuit, basically fans that go through. That helps dry them out. But having a dry boot to start the day in whitetail hunting can be really helpful too.
Yeah, that was the thing I was going to say. Having really not saddle hunted, but having done a lot of climbing and hanging in harnesses and stuff, it's like if your feet are pushing against that platform all the time, just by default you're cutting off circulation, and so I'm assuming you move your feet around some, right?
Yeah.
So that's going to help. But again, that's an interesting problem to solve. That if I'm just sitting in a tree stand with a traditional tree stand, I'm not having those issues. I've got other issues, but I don't have that particular issue.
Hard-soled boots are they're super important.
Which again goes back to more like mountaineering.
Yep.
Not mountaineering, but like backpacking type boots,
yeah,
right?
Like trekking
boots, yeah. To help with that. And then the last thing I want to say about feet, because it's such a big deal, is again, I get a lot of people saying, well, my feet just sweat a lot, and so, I mean, I've talked to guys that are literally changing their socks at the base of the tree from the hike in, right? Okay, cool. That's what you got to manage. One way to help with that, certainly change your socks at the base of a tree, but you can treat your feet just like you can your armpits with antiperspirant. In the morning when you're getting dressed, you can, I don't know if they have spray antiperspirant
They
anymore.
do. Yeah.
So spray antiperspirant or rub the stick on there, and just like your armpit, it's going to maybe not stop the sweating, but it's going to cut it down. It's going to limit it, right? And I don't suffer with that problem, but I learned that from some old climbers and, who were going into really Arctic conditions. And they're like, oh, yeah, we do everything we can to treat our feet. And it'll work for the day. And then the next day you do it again. Next day. And so anything you can do to cut down and limit the moisture buildup within that, to include like, hey, I'm pulling it off the boot dryer. I need, anything in here to like dissipate so that I'm not going to sweat, is going to go a long, long way in keeping warm feet when you're in the whitetail woods.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Man, that's and talking about like on the saddle platform of having your feet like this, I started hunting with a bigger platform that we have a new one coming out. It's kind of a hybrid. It's 20 inches long, so you can stand on it like a tree stand, or lean on it as a saddle.
Okay.
And I stand a lot, and I'll just lean into the tree.
Okay.
I just have never been able to lean all the time and stay. Even on the small platforms, I'd find a way to stand at certain times just from your feet, and that allows you to wear different boots as well. Like the vent lights. When I was a very anti-rubber boot person, but I will say that those do breathe well for a rubber boot. They're still not going to breathe as well as a hiking boot is going to, but they breathe pretty dang well. If you have, even a half mile to a mile hike in with some moderate terrain, they're going to do pretty well for that.
Yeah.
If I'm hiking up a steep face going up through there, they're still not going to be the one that I want to use, and rather would have more of a hiking or trekking style boot to do that. But they've been very impressive with it. Because I remember when that first project first started years ago, and Chris talked to me about it. He's like, "Do you want to help test?" I was like, "No." I said, "I'm not interested. I can't. I don't think I have feedback because I don't wear rubber boots." He's like, "This is gonna be different."
Yeah,
and I'm glad that I did.
We were talking about this yesterday. It's been at least 5, if not almost 6 years of development for that vent light boot.
Yeah,
which
it's crazy.
I mean, it sounds crazy to me. It's got to sound insane to people that just aren't in that world, but that's sometimes what it takes.
Yeah. No, that's it's super cool. But once you understand like these principles, that everything we've been talking about here, it may seem like information overload the first time you hear it, but when you figure out those things, and each person's different, each body's a little bit different, like you talk about the sweaty feet or cold hands or whatever it might be, you figure those things out and you refine it to be able to stay on the stand longer, be focused, and make the hunt enjoyable.
Yeah.
Like that's, maybe you can grind it out, but why make it harder if you don't have to?
I want every legal advantage I can get. So to go back to what we were talking before we started filming, right? The comment of, a particular person said, you're just going to be cold, wet, and miserable, and you just got to be tough. No, that is not the case anymore. That was the case back when Fred Bear was bow hunting these mountains, right? That is not the case now. Like, you do not have to be cold, wet, and miserable. Not to say you don't have to tough it out and things aren't always good, going to be challenging sometimes, and like you will be cold at times, but you can warm up. You will be wet at times, but you can dry out. But you do not need to just have it in your head, this is just part of hunting, is I'm going to be cold, wet, and miserable. It's like, no, I completely reject that statement.
Yeah, I do too. And it was so great to see my family once I was able to get them, because they were very against, like, oh, you don't need that stuff. And my dad was one of them. And I remember gifting him a few pieces of Sitka, and he started, next thing you know, he's texting me links of products and be like, hey, I'm looking at, picking this up. What do you think? What's it? I'm like, oh, maybe, and explain it to him. And then he listens to the podcast with you and going through it. And, now my dad's all, he's going through it, and he'll ask me on a certain day, like, hey, what do you think? This piece is going to be better for it. And he's gotten into it and a believer. And now all his brothers, all my uncles, they're all decked out in it. And I still we were doing deer drives last year. My one uncle showed up wearing the Fanatic jacket. I said, please do not wear that. He's like, I love this thing. It's so warm. I said, this is not the application.
Yeah.
So,
well, if hunting is important enough to you, like if you value it that much, then I just say that these technical clothing systems, like Sitka, they're an investment in your hunting future, right? And it's going to keep you out there. It's going to let you have more fun. Hopefully you're going to, be successful, all those things. And so, again, you don't have to be cold, wet, and miserable anymore. You just don't. So,
yeah. And no, I think it's great. And I think the last thing I want to say here is, I think it's great that you, and then also Sitka, in general is working more on the education. You've always been education first, but in general, putting out that education for people to learn. And that's when you look at it from a product perspective and from a Sitka perspective, you can have the best gear in the world, but if people don't know how to use it, it's worthless.
Yeah.
Or close to it.
Yeah. And selfishly, I want to bring those people along because that allows us to continue to do really cool things and technical things that they're going to, we'll help them understand, but they'll intrinsically understand the value and how it's going to make their life outdoors better. And then we just continue to keep doing rad stuff.
Yeah.
Right. Which that's what I want to do.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
It's fun. It's, I don't know, I was talking to your wife, prior to this, and we were just talking about some things with you, behind your back.
Uh-oh.
You were in the
I could
house.
sense it. Yeah.
But of how, I could tell when I talk to you of certain things you're super excited about and passionate about, and I love it. And it's cool to see as you keep progressing and doing things. Like it's awesome. And for anybody that's listening, John's your platform with Knowledge from Storms, Knowledge from Storm that you've been doing for how many years have you been putting out content there now? Oh my gosh,
dude, I don't even know. Maybe I'm going on 5.
Is it really?
4 for sure.
Dang.
Oh, I know. And every day I'm like, I can quit anytime if I want. That's how I keep it like.
You make it fun for you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or I get overwhelmed. I'm reluctant, but it's been awesome. It's been such a great outlet for me to just, again, why build this stuff if nobody understands how to use it?
Yeah.
And, coming on here, talking to you, like having these platforms has just been amazing. And I think, because you're out in the public eye as well as me, and you're talking to people, like you start to hear stories where people start to put it together and get the aha moment, and that's pretty rewarding.
Yeah,
like that's pretty rewarding.
It is, and that it when there's times of you're explaining something that you're working on now that you were struggling with. But when it all comes together, and when it all comes together, and whatever it is, and people find a benefit from it, and whether it's something as dramatic as a life-saving event, or just something someone's able to stay warm in a tree stand, like that is so awesome to hear, and especially from an educator, and to see it's not just going to deaf ears.
Right. Yeah. No, it's. Yeah, we'll see. I'm stoked about what we got coming out.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, check John out over on Instagram, and I'll put links down below. Outdoor class, you've got a couple. How many courses you got in there now?
I got 2. I'm working on my 3rd.
Nice.
Got a survival series with Montana Knife Company. So
nice. 1
video a week. I filmed 52 for them, so they have a year's worth of content if they want it. Yeah. I enjoy it. I get a lot of reward out of it. So,
yeah.
Satisfaction.
That's awesome. Well, I appreciate you taking the time, John.
This was a great setting.
Not a bad backdrop.
Now we get to go eat some muskox.
Yeah. I'm pumped about that.
I am too.
All right. Thanks, John.
Thanks,
appreciate
man.
it.
Thanks, Beau.
Hey, guys. Thanks so much for listening. If you enjoyed this conversation, share it with your buddies. Leave us a rating, a review, and subscribe. If you want to check out more content like this, there's plenty in the links below. We truly appreciate having you guys along with us.